from Coastal Crochet, and this tutorial is to accompany week 21 of my Seaside stash busting blanket crochet along that I'm hosting over on my blog and on Instagram. The links are in the description below. So this week, these rows here, the green and the pink, are made up of 3 rows. I don't know what this stitch is called. There are variations of it that I've seen done, and moss stitch, which is based on double crochet, US single crochet, can often get a sort of 2-coloured or multicoloured effect. But I've based this one on treble stitches. The green rows are treble US double crochet stitches, and then the pink rows are made up of double crochet, single crochet stitches. I'll show you how to do it, but I think you'll agree that it looks really, really effective with the bursts of colour coming through. And I've chosen these rows on my blanket to resemble the cliff top flowers. I really wanted some rows that really were inspired by the pops of colour that come through on the cliffs and through the grass in the spring months, and I think these rows have achieved that. So I will show you how to do it. So at the end of our previous row, at the very last stitch, we join with a new colour and we make 3 chain. And as always, throughout this blanket, this turning chain counts as the first stitch of the next row. And this is often a bit of confusion in crochet, which stitch is the next one to go to. And you can see it quite clearly here. When your turning chain counts as a stitch, the stitch which sits directly beneath that is the stitch that the turning chain is coming out of. So the next stitch, or the first stitch to crochet into in that row, is this one here. Okay, but for this row, we're going to miss that first stitch and do 2 treble in the next stitch. Treble stitch is US double crochet. Remember, I use UK crochet terminology. So we're going to miss 1 stitch and then do 2 treble in the following stitch. That's 1. And that's 2. Now we're going to miss 1 stitch and do 2 treble in the following stitch. And this is actually a repeat of row 2 in our Seaside stash busting blanket. The second row we did right at the beginning. This is what we did. We're going to be doing the subsequent rows differently, but this row is actually a repeat of row 2. So miss 1 stitch, 2 treble in the next stitch. Two treble, miss 1 stitch, 2 treble in the next stitch, and continue to the end. So we're nearly at the end of this row, so miss 1 stitch, 2 treble in the next stitch. Miss 1 stitch, 2 treble in the next stitch. And on my Seaside stash busting blanket, because we're working with 180 stitches, we are left with that 1 stitch at the end to crochet into, which is the top of the turning chain from at the end of row 84, the beginning of row 85. That was the 3 chain. So we just do 1 treble into the top of that 3 chain, just so we keep consistent with our stitch count of 180. So that's the last stitch of the row. And what we do now is, if you just gently remove your hook and then insert a stitch marker into that loop. If you haven't got a stitch marker, then a safety pin would work, or anything that you can just put it through just to secure it so it's not going to come undone. Because what we're going to do now is we're not going to turn the work. We're going to go back to the beginning of this row and have a look and see. This is what the stitches should be looking like. But we're going to go right back to the beginning of the row, and we're going to be joining with a new colour and crocheting back along, you know, with the front of the work still facing us. So what we're going to do is we're going to join the new colour yarn into the top of that 3 chain, and you can just see you've got 1, 2, 3, just the top of that 3 chain. Insert your hook into it under both strands, and then you can join with your new colour. There we go. And what we're going to do is we are going to make 1 chain, because that's going to count as the first double crochet, that's US single crochet stitch of this next row. So we've made 1 chain, and then what we do is we do 1 double crochet into that space between the first stitch and the 2 stitches there. So just 1 double crochet in that space. And now we're going to make 2 chain, miss those 2 stitches, and just do 1 double crochet into the next space. Two chain, miss the 2 stitches, and do 1 double crochet in that space that's between the groups of 2 treble. 2 chain, miss the 2 stitches, and 1 double crochet into that space. I'll show you again. 2 chain, miss the 2 stitches, 1 double crochet into that space, and just carry on doing that right to the end of the blanket. So we're nearly at the end of this row, just carrying on with our 2 chain, miss the 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in the next space, 2 chain, 1 double crochet in the next space. And now at the end of our row, we've got the group of 2 trebles there, plus that final treble at the end. So to end this row, what we do is we just do 2 chain as we have been along the whole row, but we now we skip the 2 stitches, so skip the 1, 2 treble, and just do 1 double crochet into that final stitch. But what we're doing is we are inserting the hook as we normally would, yarn over and pull through, but we're not going to finish the double crochet in the usual way. What we're going to do, remember we had the stitch marker on that green loop, we're now going to pop that green loop over the hook and just remove the stitch marker, and just let the pink colour or whatever colour you've got yarn just go and rejoin with the first colour, and we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, and that is how we're going to end that row and join the colour that we need to go back on row 88, so the 3rd row of this set of 3. So we're now going to do 3 chain, counts as the first treble of the next row, turn the work, and now what you can see, we've got these double crochet stitches with these 2 chain sort of lengths going across the top of the 2 treble from the row below. And what we're going to be doing is doing 2 treble into those 2 chain spaces. So between the top of row 86 and beneath the row 87, the row we've just done, that 2 chain space, that is where we're going to be crocheting into. So we're going to start this next row with 2 treble into that 2 chain space. So that's 1, that's 2, and then what we're going to do, you can see we have the double crochet stitch there, and we're going to miss that and just do 2 treble in the next chain space. miss that double crochet stitch and just do 2 treble into that 2 chain space. And this is what it should be looking like. And if I turn it so you can see it from the front, you can really see the effect is now happening. I really, really like it. You get the little bursts of colour from that middle row, and certainly represents the cliff top flowers, which is what I was trying to achieve with this row. So we carry on all the way along, back along this row, just doing 2 treble in each of the 2 chain space. And carry on to the end. So we're just at the end of this 3rd and final row, and we're carrying on with 2 treble in each 2 chain space all the way to the end. And this is our final 2 chain space, so we just do 2 treble in there like we have been all along. And now to finish this row, which is 88 of our blanket, you'll remember that we did 1 chain at the start of row 87, the pink row, and then did 1 double crochet into this space. So we're going to skip this double crochet stitch, and we're going to do a treble into that chain 1, which was the 1st stitch of the row. So it's a bit tricky, but it's that little V there. And if we just insert our hook into that chain 1, like so, and we work a treble stitch as normal. And that is to finish the row and make sure that we're consistent with our 180 stitches. And that is it. And if we look back at the front of the work and look back along, you can see the effect that those 3 rows has. And they're like little flowers peeping through the grass, or well, that's what I think it is, but for you it could be anything you like. But I think that's a really, really lovely effect made up of 3 rows. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thanks for watching.